Welcome to my passion project, the Wine Find Talks. This is where I share one wine that I love, why I love it, and then we taste it. So, let's talk. The wine I'm sharing with you today is a 2020 Xavier Vignon Côtes du Rhône from France. The reason I love this wine is that it's not only delicious and interesting, but it's made by someone who's a talented artist, an alchemist even. It's made by Xavier Vignon. Xavier is a Frenchman who's made wine all over the world, but he was particularly influenced by his time in Champagne and Bordeaux, where blending is king. Then he fell in love with the southern Rhône and became intimately acquainted with every area within that region. Revered for his winemaking talent, he has consulted for hundreds of wineries in the Rhône, giving him access to fabulous fruit for the wine that he makes. You see, Xavier doesn't own his own vineyards. Instead, he draws on his relationships with great growers. He buys fruit from exciting parcels of land, and with that fruit, he crafts fine wine, using blending as his tool to create harmony and balance in the glass. His wines are bottled compositions, and this bottle right here is an assemblage of more than 250 plots selected from 25 terroirs from that region. Xavier is hugely respected by connoisseurs, and his top cuvées fetch hundreds of dollars per bottle. This wine costs a mere $20. Now for Xavier, he thinks wine is a source of emotion, an effort to authentically capture part of the southern Rhône in the bottle, with all of its aromas and colors and textures, and his ultimate goal is to make people happy. Now this wine right here is 85% Grenache, 10% Syrah, and 5% Mourvèdre. So it's a natural blend from the region, and it's just, I think it's fabulous. So in the glass, you notice the color, great depth of color. That's from the Mourvèdre. But it's a ripe region. So these are, sun-drenched berries, and you can see that in the glass. So lots of color, beautiful, deep, quite opaque, really. And on the nose, it's just beautiful. Now, the aromas, they smell like the dark fruit for sure. Dark, muddled berries, but there's more than that. There's sort of underbrush, those Mediterranean herbs that you so often find in, southern Rhône wines. There's a hint of licorice, there's salt, there's white pepper. Just lovely. It's the kind of wine, every time you go back to it, you get something. And then on the palate, sweeps in wonderful texture. The tannins are there, but they're polished, they're silky, they're finely grained, and they hold the fruit on the finish. Wonderful finish, and all the aromas we found on the fragrance fans out, cascades on the palate. So at first there's a sweep of black fruit, as well as red fruit that keeps the juiciness going on, keeps it drinkable and lifted, and then as it recedes, all of those earthy nuance come to the fore. I'm getting, on my palate right now, it's all earth and Mediterranean herbs. This is the kind of wine that's completely fabulous with food. More on that in a moment. So structurally, fantastic. The Grenache gives it that juiciness that makes it so drinkable and quenching. Lots of juicy acidity, but there's lots of mid-palate stuffing too. And there's no alcoholic heat on the back of the palate because it's so beautifully balanced. Now, actually, Xavier has very specific food pairing recommendations for this that I really can't argue with. He recommends having this with chestnut soup or red mullet with ratatouille. Love that. The juiciness would absolutely stand up to that tomato-based sauce. Or he recommends it having with duck confit. I could totally get behind that. This would be fabulous with duck confit. So there you have it. That is what I wanted to talk about.